Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion. And the Sunrisers Hyderabad have beaten the Royal Challengers Bangalore by 9 wickets and have won their 5th consecutive game. And they've already handed out 5 thrashings to their opposition in the last 5 games. In their first 4 wins, they chased down scores ranging from the mid-150s to the mid-170s. And in this game, they have really demolished their opposition. RCB 68 all out and SRH getting there in quick time. And it's really skyrocketed their net run rate because it was in the negatives leading up to this game. And now it's the second highest in the competition and they're sitting at second place with 5 wins in a row. So I'm not surprised that they've really bounced back after their first 2 losses. I didn't think, as I've said before, I didn't think those 2 losses would be an accurate representation of how this team would go this season. And I think they've assembled an adaptable squad, like I said in my preview. And that's why I'm not surprised by this at all. I'm surprised by the way they've won this particular game because I think in the Brabant Stadium we've seen scores of 210 or higher and some of them kind of almost being chased down, like the game between Rajasthan and KKR. So I think that in that kind of a scenario or on a ground that has yielded those kind of games, I think with a 68 all out, it really is kind of two polar opposites. And SRH, what they did really well was they made use of the movement up front, especially the likes of Marco Jansen. 3 wickets in 3 overs, dismissing du Plessis and Virat Kohli was always going to derail RCB in some way. Glenn Maxwell also being dismissed for 12. So you've got another case where the top 3 has been dismissed before the end of the 7th over. And before 10 overs, they had lost 7 wickets. So this was never going to be too great for RCB. And you may think I'm going straight into the game, but at the same time, I mean, look, the 11s were the same for both teams in this game. And it was pretty much SRH's game from the start. I think something which they'd be really happy with is that you've got Marco Jansen, Tina Trajan, and Umran Malik. Now, these players, as talented as they are, they're quite inexperienced at this level. And in the end, it's those 3 who have really dealt the damage for kind of to this RCB batting lineup. Their best bowler in Bhuvneshwar Kumar has actually played, well, not even second figures, but 2 overs, taken 1 wicket. And again, every bowler who bowled today bowled well for SRH, but I think it's just the fact that we're saying they've got this real disciplined pace bowling lineup, but 3 of those are emerging talents, and that's why I think it's such a heartening thing to see how well they've been doing this season. And without the likes of Washington Sundar and Romario Shepherd. Now, Marco Jansen is a better bowler, and that's why they've played him, but at the same time, the reason why there's a case of playing Romario Shepherd is because if you take out him and Washington Sundar, there's no one that can really offer you that power at the end. Abhishek Sharma has played well opening the batting of the season, so they'd want to keep him there, despite the fact that he originally was kind of he broke through as a kind of a finisher at that number 7 spot. And so I think with those 2, with Shepherd not playing, and certainly you're getting the better bowler in Jansen, but you're not getting that finisher at the end without Sundar being available either. And so Sushit can give you those knocks at number 7, but certainly as a bowler and as maybe as a consistent of a batsman as Sundar, you may be losing out on things there. But he bowled really well today. I thought 2 for 12 in 3 overs. After a game against KKR where he wasn't too great, on the same surface today, 2 for 12 in 3 overs, outstanding from him. And yeah, I think you're looking at 4 players who aren't exactly the forefronts at the moment of a side. Very good players, but aren't the forefronts. And yet they are the ones that have really destroyed a lineup with the likes of Kohli, du Plessis, Maxwell, and Dinesh Karthik in the top 7, with some good domestic players as well. So a very good batting side has been absolutely destroyed today by a quality, especially seam bowling side, and with Suchit really standing up in these last 2 games. So I think SRH will be really happy with that. And for RCB, these things do happen. I mean, they've won 5 out of their 8 games now this season, and their batting lineup is still, yes, they haven't been getting the results from their top 3 on a consistent basis as a combination. In fact, in the last 2 games, they've lost at least 2 of their top 3 before the end of the 7th over. But I think that, again, their batting still looks quite good with the way the others have really come to the party, especially from number 4 onwards. And with Duplessis also playing some vital knocks as well, with the 88 in the first game and 96 in the game against LSG. And I think there have been quite a few positives for RCB this season. I mean, going into this game, their bowling attack this is probably the most economical attack that they can field. And so you didn't think that they would lose the game by this way. But I think that, look, it really goes back to what I've been saying about SRH and RCB, is that this thing kind of works for the previous template of teams when the likes of Rashid Khan, etc. were in this side. But whatever RCB and SRH have done, unless SRH have collapsed, RCB have never actually beaten them in the last, since 2019, you could say. RCB have never actually beaten SRH in a game where they haven't collapsed. I mean, in the first game of 2019, they absolutely bashed them about, and in the last game for RCB of that season, it was a bit of a dead rubber where Shimon Hetma and Gurgir Singh won their team the game. Then in 2020, they were pretty much, I think, SRH collapsed at the end to give RCB the win, and then they really beat them comprehensively the next two times. And in 2021, you've got a case where SRH once again collapsed in Chennai, and RCB still, they couldn't chase the score down later on in the tournament when Bhuvneshwar Kumar bowled to De Villiers in that last over and they couldn't get over the line. So it's a case where that template worked with the previous seasons, but it just shows when SRH are on song against RCB in the last few years, they don't actually seem to have an answer. And they didn't have an answer in this game. I think we saw in the game between KKR and SRH that there was still movement up front, and it would have been difficult if you hadn't used that at the start. But with the bowlers SRH have got, they were very disciplined, and they pretty much ripped through RCB from the very start. In the second over already, 3 wickets for 3 runs in the same over. Marco Jansen, a top-class performance from him. And yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised by SRH at all. I mean, I'm surprised they won the game in this way. I mean, the outstanding keeping from Nicholas Puran, the very good batting from Abhishek Sharma, and the top-class bowling from all the bowlers. This really was a very good day for SRH, secure in the field as well. And yeah, I think that SRH should be really happy with this win. And for RCB, it's a case where, yes, their top order hasn't exactly come to the party consistently. And this is where I'd like to talk about Virat Kohli. Now, I think, and I will be talking about Rohit Sharma as well when in my previous video, I said that I'll be making a video fairly soon on CSK and MI season so far. But for Virat Kohli, I think, look, out of his first 8 games so far, he's in T20s, if you get 40 or more, that counts as an impactful score in my view. And he's got 2 40s. And I think that in the rest of the 6 games, he's got out in 3 ways. 1, fishing outside the off stump. 2, playing a bit of a nothing shot. For example, against Chamira in the previous game that they played against LSG. And also against CSK off the bowling of Mukesh Chaudhary. And then run out. So 3 modes of dismissals for the most part. And I think if you're comparing him and Rohit Sharma, the thing that you could say Rohit Sharma right now doesn't look too much is, I think with Virat Kohli with these 6 dismissals, as I've said, I think he really has been seems to be under more pressure than Rohit Sharma, I think. And it's a case where, yes, he's got 2 40-odd scores in the first 8 games, but I think with the dismissals, they have looked a bit kind of out of sorts, you could say. And look, he's a quality player, and as I've said this before, and I'll be honest, when people say the last 2 years, it really is the last 2 months, let's be honest. I mean, with what he was doing before these last 2 months, then, I mean, with anyone else, you would have taken that scoring 50s more often than not. And you could count many good innings that Virat Kohli's played over the last 2 years. And the only reason why the attention was even kind of on him in kind of a scrutinizing way is because he simply didn't get 3 figures. And it's quite an absurd thing if you're putting pressure on a player because he doesn't score 100. But in this tournament so far, he has looked kind of a bit, I think, quite desperate to get runs, especially in this game, with the way that he poked out at the ball for his first ball, the ball moving around, and wasn't the greatest of shots from him. And I think it was a case where he got out for a golden duck in its previous game, and despite the fact that the ball was moving around, he does like to play the cover drive. He does have the tendency to fish outside the off stump. and that's why he just wanted to get bat on ball and he was dismissed. So not a great dismissal from Kohli this time around, and 6 dismissals that he wouldn't really want to remember too fondly, but he's a quality player. And like Kevin Peterson said on commentary a few games back, you don't achieve what he's achieved in this game without and then write someone off, let's say one of the legends of the game, him and Rohit Sharma. And I think, I'm not really concerned by what those two are doing this tournament at all. I mean, if you even look at Rohit Sharma, it's a case where he's got a 41, a 28, and a 26, and both the 20s were brisk starts. And in the game against the Delhi Capitals, him and Ishant Kishan played they really got a good opening partnership in. So I think it's a case where, especially for Rohit Sharma, it's not exactly that he's looking out of sorts as such. I think that with the soft dismissals they've been getting, yes, he hasn't been getting as many runs as he would like, and that's why maybe there's an extra tendency for him to get those dismissals. But I think out of those two, Virat Kohli certainly seems to be under more pressure, certainly more desperate to get runs. If we're comparing their dismissals so far, in 6 out of the 8 dismissals of Virat Kohli, then he certainly hasn't, 6 out of 7, he certainly, he wouldn't want to remember those dismissals very fondly. So I'm sure he'll bounce back. I mean, I think the thing that I'm trying to say is that if this has started from, let's say, 2 months, for kind of the last 2 months, and then fair enough. I think the scrutiny started way earlier than that, just because he wasn't getting 3 figures and kind of holding up to the standards that he set, when in reality, I think that because of the fact that he hasn't been getting 100 in the last 2 years, I think it's probably gone a bit out of hand, the criticism and holding up to the standards that he was at, when in reality, even before he didn't used to play every game. No one does. And I just think that even if you're scoring 50s, things are still good. Maybe that's a pressure that also played on him as well. And maybe because he desperately wants to get that kind of a wow score, he has been getting out in the last... he's been getting out in the ways that he has. But I wish him all the best. He's a quality player, and I'm sure he will bounce back very soon. And for RCB, honestly, you know what? They should say in the team meeting... they just don't remember this game by any means. I think Ian Bishop did say a few kind of correct things, which is the fact that you've got Anuj Rawat, who I've even said before, he's not exactly giving you those fast starts when he's getting going, and in a 200 chase he scored 12 of 17 balls and really put the players under pressure. And Virat Kohli hasn't exactly come to the party too much after those 240 around those 240 odd scores. So I think those things would certainly be something that they'd want to look at. And that's... it is obviously that the top 3 hasn't exactly been firing on a consistent basis. But apart from that, the batting lineup still looks good. The others seem to be extremely confident. And they still obviously need to think about some issues, the kind of, especially with the way the consistent performances from the top 3. But apart from that, I think that they should just think this is kind of a bad game, which we do have from time to time. That was the anniversary of the 49 all-out and the 175 in 2013 from Chris Gayle. So it's a day that's provided them some mixed fortune. Something which would have been even worse this game was that at least they had some joy in the first innings in 2017. In this innings, they've kind of not had joy. In this game, they haven't had joy at any point. And the positive for them is that, or rather a relief for them, is that, look, they've won 5 games. They're not like other franchises who have lost games which they should have won and then have got this kind of a catastrophic result. They've got the momentum. This is a way better RCB side than it has been in 2017, and looks a way better RCB side than it's been in a long while. There used to be an over-reliance on De Villiers and Virat Kohli, and the players that they did buy, apart from Glenn Maxwell in the previous season, no one really gave them that assurance. Maybe Padikkal a bit, you could say, but generally no one's really given them that assurance. They bought players like Aaron Finch and Moeen Ali, and they've really not come to the party while they're at RCB. So I think with the lineup that they've got so far, with the international stars like Glenn Maxwell and the domestic players really standing up, it certainly looks a confident batting lineup on the whole. And then bowling is probably the most economical that it would be this season, I think, fielding this kind of side. So some positives for both teams. I think with the way that SRH have been going this season, you thought they were going to make use of the movement up front. And I think if you're looking at the teams this tournament, they are one of the teams capable to really destroy the opposition like this. And their bowling attack, their pace bowling attack is probably the most coherent in this entire competition so far. So I'm really happy for SRH. And the thing that they'd want to think about is that, like Dale Steyn said, rightly so, that maybe winning the toss in all their 7 games has meant that they've been able to do what they wanted to do. But something which I'd say even for that is that they lost their game chasing against LSG. And the batting lineup you would have thought wouldn't have been confident even chasing 150 odd scores down on slow surfaces especially, but they've executed 3 clinical chases on a slow surface in the DY Patil Stadium. And so with a vulnerable lineup where you could think, well, it certainly seemed low in confidence after the first 2 games, and after that top 5, they don't exactly have, in this particular event, they don't exactly have a player that will give you consistent contributions after that point, but the top 5 have really been taking the mantle really well. And with their bowling, I think even when they conceded 200 runs, like I've said, they still looked, you still thought that they had things going for them. Had they not bowled no balls, then RR would have probably not got anywhere near that score. And I think that the things have been going quite well for them. Even with the inexperienced bowling attack that they have, Bar Bhuvneshwar Kumar, they still have been standing up. And in this game, it's the inexperienced players that have really won in this game. So I think some positives for them, yes. But something which they'd want to do is if they bat first and they can post a decent score on the board and then defend the score with their bowling, that will be pretty much the complete package for SRH this season, and they'll further reinstate why I think they're the most overhated team in the auction, and I think they'll go quite far this season. And it looks a bit of a tight race actually, because you've got the likes of you've got the current top 4, which is GT, SRH, Rajasthan, and RCB. But LSG, and if DC win their next game, they'll certainly be in the hunt as well. So it's looking like a good race this season. If CSK beat the Punjab Kings on Monday, then that will mean they're both on 1-3 loss 5, and KKR, Punjab, and CSK will be in the same boat. So let's see how the things go. And MI are playing LSG. I think things will be quite difficult to beat LSG this season for them. I think that if you're actually looking at the bowling attack, I think if you look at Bumrah, Meredith, especially, MI have got 2 bowlers who can certainly get some punches, especially off a good bowling attack, like a surface which does have some movement up front at the Wankhede Stadium. And I think they'll do better than what they did before, but at the same time, I think their best bet is to bowl first and see what happens. They have 2 bowlers, especially in Meredith and Bumrah, that can make some inroads, and especially the likes of Bumrah as well. So I think let's see how they go. But I think LSG, with their batting spine that I referred to so many times this season, have an advantage, and with their bowling, it seems more coherent than MI at this time. So let's see how that game goes, but I think LSG would certainly win that. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, please share this with your friends, and remember, this is my opinion, what's yours?